what you've just seen is very hard to watch. And I wanted to say that for a Palestinian, it's perhaps even harder to watch. But I also wanted to say that about 7 years after the first Nakba, a Palestinian writer called Hassan Kanafani wrote a letter, short story called Letter from Gaza, Risala min Gaza. And in Risala min Gaza, Hassan Kanafani tells the story of a man who's about to leave to study. He's about to leave Gaza to study in the United States. And he's sent to visit his niece in the hospital. He doesn't know why she's in the hospital. His family won't tell him. And when he gets there, he lies to her about having brought her gifts, because he hasn't brought anything. And one of the gifts is a pair of red trousers. And when he tells her, I'll bring you the pair of red trousers, she looks at him and can't say anything because she's lost her leg. And when he sees that she's lost her leg, Kanafani writes, "Never shall I forget Nadia's leg, amputated from the top of the thigh. No, nor shall I forget the grief which had molded her face and merged into its traits forever. I went out of the hospital in Gaza that day, my hand clutched in silent derision on the 2 pounds I had brought with me to give Nadia. The blazing sun filled the streets with the color of blood. And Gaza was brand new, Mustafa." It's hard to imagine what brand new would look like now. Very hard. I can't imagine it. But there are people who come from Gaza who will tell you that it has to be imagined and that we have to do it. So today I'm going to ask some questions to the people, find people sitting on either side of me. 2 or 3 questions maybe, 4 or 5. And then I'm going to throw it open to you guys, okay? And if you want to ask questions, you're more than welcome. Earlier this year, the US Vice President J.D. Vance was talking about who we owe care to. J.D. Vance is a convert to Catholicism. And he talked about something which in Catholic faith is called the Ordo Amoris, the order of love. And he basically explained that, your love is owed first to your family, your children, then your neighbors, then other people in your town, then maybe people wider in the wider country, and then to people outside your country, not before. And this is what he had to say about it. And at that time, Pope Francis was still alive, and Pope Francis wrote to churches saying, well, this is not correct. He said Christian love is not a concentric expansion of interests that little by little extends to other persons and groups. And he urged Vance to think about the story of the Good Samaritan who helped someone he didn't know. So Dr. Siraj, I wanted to tell that little story, not because I like the sound of my own voice, although I do, but because you set aside your own family, and as we saw in the film, to aid people in a distant land who were not your kin. You put your own family life at risk to save other people. I want you to try and explain to the audience how that's done.
It's a tough one. I remember leading up to the mission, there's constant battle between your heart and mind. Heart says do it, mind says don't be stupid. You've got a young family, you've got children, you've got bills to pay, don't do it. Then you see these pictures coming day in and day out. Gaza has been very close to my heart, and I had the skill set to be of use. I would never forgive myself if I didn't put those skill sets to use. We spoke about order of life, love. My Islamic faith teaches me that if you save one person's life, it's as though you've saved the entire humanity. I knew we live in a very safe environment here in Australia. We're very secure. But the people of Gaza were suffering. Being a doctor, being a human, you just can't see people suffer on the other side. So it's one of those things where a call was made. I spoke to my wife. She's very supportive was very supportive. We put this across, and I felt that once the intention of going, doors kept opening for us. One thing led to another, and yeah, we were in Gaza. We had, in fact, about 3 or 4 weeks to prepare, and it was thinking back was, I think, this is something which I would do it time and again. I would blink an eye to go back to Gaza to help people there.
Okay, now, in a different way, Bianca and Robert, you also have left behind this place and gone on a ship to a place that you knew was under siege, that you knew you would be intercepted. You knew that you would probably be detained and then sent back. Why?
I've been trying to get on the Flotilla for quite some time. There's 1 billion odd people or a couple of billion people in the world, and I was given an opportunity to be on that boat. And for me to look at my kids at the table and say that I had an opportunity to do something that I believe can possibly make a difference to the Palestinians and not do it, that would be an irresponsible thing. And I couldn't live with myself, because being in a position like the good doctor was saying and having the ability to do something, I don't have those abilities, but I have other abilities, and I would be ashamed of myself not to go, and I'll go again. So.
Yeah, in the same vein, I was extremely lucky to have the opportunity to take part in the Flotilla. I felt a moral and a professional obligation to do it, to do everything I could to help to break the siege. There was also a personal component to it, which was my own, I guess, vicarious trauma or moral injury, which I think not just doctors, but all of us have suffered of witnessing the atrocities over the past 2 years and just feeling powerless, attending rallies, taking part in all kinds of events, organised by healthcare workers and just the community in general. I was feeling powerless. I felt like what we were doing wasn't making a difference, that we weren't seeing any concrete change on the ground. And so taking part in the Flotilla just felt like doing something. And I knew I could do it. I had the opportunity. And so for me, it was a therapeutic thing for myself, as well as everything that I was doing for other people. And I knew that so many people wanted to be in my position as well. Over 100,000 people applied for that Flotilla. Over 200,000 have applied for the next one. And that was several weeks ago. I know we're going to see thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people apply, and even those that don't apply are there in spirit. And we felt that so strongly when we were on those boats. The love and support of people all around the world.
Dr. Siraj, this Global Medical Foundation, I want to ask Dr. Mohammad about this as well. We talk about making a difference and doing things, but as you know, we saw in the film that sometimes the attacks came very close to the hospitals themselves, and we know, sadly, that many times hospitals have not only been struck, they've actually been targeted. I wanted to ask Dr. Mohammad and then yourself about the work of PANZMA in your case, Dr. Mohammad. When you're setting up for this work, you know that there's a good chance that the places where people work will be affected in this way. What goes through your mind when you send people and when you send the resources and material?
In my position as a hematology consultant, I work here locally. 2 years ago, when the war started, back then I was a board member of an organization which you can see here called the Palestinian Australian New Zealand Medical Association, which we have established 3 years prior to the war. And the idea back then was, we have a lot of skills, like the doctor here mentioned, and also my colleagues have mentioned, that they have felt that they need to do something. And 5 years ago, this is what we were sitting together and discussing, that we have skills as doctors, and we would like to share our skills with our brothers where they need it. And that's how PANZMA came about. And one of the ideas that we had is to send medical missions. So when the war started, I sat with myself and I said, okay, I would like to help. This is the time. If it's not now, it will never be. And then what struck me is, how would I go? How do I get to a place which is sieged? It's war. It's so complicated. As a doctor, I would like to go, but I don't know how. And I've researched that for many months. I was like, we need to do something, but nobody knew how to do it. And I continued to do the work in the background until I managed to establish something which is called the Medical Mission Program of PANZMA, through which I registered our organization, which was a small organization nobody knew about, in a WHO program, which is called the Emergency Medical Response, which is an international program. And during that time, when we have like filling applications and doing all of that work, I came across a couple of Instagram posts about Dr. Siraj being in Gaza. And I was like, yes, there are Australians there, so inshallah we'll be able to make it as well. So he was there in April, and we've managed to register the organization under the EMT program in April as well. And as soon as we've registered, in May, we had the first Australian doctor with PANZMA on the ground. And watching the documentary, I can see that, or remember, or reflect on all of these things in the background, where initially the entry was through Gaza. Through Egypt into Gaza. So when Dr. Siraj went, he went through Rafah border. And the next doctor who went in with us, Dr. El-Beiruti, he's an emergency specialist from Sydney. He also went through Rafah border, but he was stuck in. So you've asked me, how do you respond, or how is your feeling, or you're sending doctors to a war zone? The first doctor I sent was stuck in Gaza because Israel have taken over the borders and we couldn't really evacuate him out. He went in with 40 other doctors from worldwide, like international, and they were all stuck. And we had to negotiate with the Israelis, with the United Nations, with WHO, a way to bring them back out. We couldn't. And alhamdulillah, finally we managed to get them out through Jordan, through some political pressure on the Jordanian government, because there were two Jordanian doctors with them. And they've helped the whole team to come out. And since then, PANZMA have sent 25 missions into Gaza, 25 missions. And we have performed more than 7,000 surgeries in total, and hundreds of thousands of consultations, emergency, on the wards, and everything. The total number of doctors and nurses we have on the waiting list, more than 1,000. They all wish and want to go. Alhamdulillah, there's plenty. The only reason we can't send them all is because of the Israelis. There's restriction on how many doctors can enter. 7 healthcare workers from all of the universe can enter Gaza twice a week. 7. That's the maximum. And you can imagine how many doctors get rejected. So for someone to come from Sydney, travel all the way back then to Egypt, but now to Jordan, and wait for the permission from the Israelis to enter Gaza 6 hours before the deployment time, So he has to travel, he has to take leave from his work, he has to say goodbye to his family, pack everything and be ready. And in Jordan, and before he enters, he still doesn't know if he's going in or not. And he may be rejected. We have so many doctors who did that and got rejected, had to carry their sadness and come back home. It's very hard, it's destroying. So when I send these doctors there, I know it's very dangerous. We, as organization, we have a lot of measures in place. We have a team on the ground in Gaza. We have a team in Jordan. We have guest houses like the one he was mentioning. These places are deconflicted, so we register them GPS location with the Israelis to make sure they don't bomb this location, although they don't really respect that. We know that. And they bomb around it. And occasionally I get calls in the middle of the night saying, we are going to bomb this area. Do you have doctors in this area? And I'll say, yes, I do. What do? We have to evacuate them. And that's what Dr. Siraj was referring to in the documentary, when they have to be evacuated or taken out from a location because Israelis are going to do something 100%. And it's very hard for me to know that they are at risk. It's hard for them to leave their patients and go because they know they can be safe, but the others can't. The locals have to just stay. So it's really very difficult. I don't know where to start.
La. You've given an excellent pitch. Thank you. Dr. Siraj, how often do you hear from the doctors that you worked with there now?
Almost every day. So I've been in touch with, it's coming up to almost 2 years now. We've been in touch with the medical students, we've been in touch with the doctors there, and the situation is worse. They talk about a ceasefire, but there's really not a ceasefire. There's not much hospital supplies which are there. Minimum surgeries are happening because of lack of supplies. Patients are still there. We hear numbers of 70,000 being killed, but the number is don't take into account people dying of secondary through medical problems. Your diabetes, your heart attacks, your strokes. So that's not accounted for. So the part of the question was whether hospital facilities attacked while we were there. I worked in Rafah for a week and Dar al-Bala for a week in Al-Aqsa Hospital. Both places at that time were not bombed, but there were bombings happening very close to it. We did see we were hit by a shrapnel in Dar al-Sultan, but those bombings were very, very close. You would see it used to be in the night. The night light would be orange, the sky would be orange, the entire dust would shift on one side, you could hear pressure in the room would be that much in the hospital, you'd feel like you're going to be sucked out of the room. So that would be that close, the bombings. So, but the answer to your question, I do know of colleagues who were with us. Syed was with us, and he went back in with another organization. His hospital, one of the floors of the hospital while he was there was bombed. So there's no respect to hospitals, and Mohammad spoke about the deconflicted area. I believe there's no deconflicted zones now. So it's free for all. You can be attacked no matter where you are in Gaza.
Yes, I would note when you talked about tolls and you talked about secondary deaths, there was a study in the Lancet that suggested that the real toll could be as high as 680,000. Now think about that for a moment. Think about the way this conflict has been covered, particularly in this country, and think about how it might have been covered differently if people grasped the magnitude of what we're dealing with. Even if that number turns out to be an overestimation, it's still a horrific number, and even half of it would be a horrific number, and even a quarter of it would be a horrific number. I remember on the day that the September 11th attacks took place, people talked about the possibility that 20,000 or 30,000 people had died. In the end, it was 2,700, I believe, was the total toll, and even that is too awful to describe. But here we're talking about 70,000, which is an absolute minimum. It's a floor figure. It's not a serious final estimate. You talked about, at the beginning, you and Sanjay talked about the fact that you've gone to India, you've gone to Nepal, you've gone to Bangladesh, and then you went to Gaza. I wanted to ask you, How was Gaza different from those other places?
The magnitude of suffering people are going through there is beyond comprehension. Words can't do justice to the suffering which is happening there. It changes your life forever. You people there become your own family. You can't stop worrying about them. While you're there, you start to question if humanity does exist. We're seeing kids being shot, we're seeing men being humiliated, being shot under the belt. We see people coming with blown genitals. It's those sort of things, amputations. Just imagine double amputee, triple amputee. There's floods happening in Gaza now. How is it different? Other missions, yes, you work, you come back, the effect lasts for about a month, 2 months. But with Gaza, you feel that you've come back, but your heart is still there, and you're going to keep going back.
Is the Australian government doing anything right now to help you access Gaza in any way? Are they doing anything to support it or hinder it?
No. The simple answer is no. They are not doing anything to help us. In fact, they don't know about us. Some of the government officials, they do know, because we have approached them and we have been talking to them for the last couple of years, and all of our discussion has fallen on deaf ears, unfortunately. Last week, I had a meeting with a couple of officials from the DFAT department, and I was shocked that they did not know that we send medical doctors to Gaza after 2 years and 25 missions and more than 60 doctors. So unfortunately, they don't know. It's shocking.
Don't care, yeah.
It's shocking.
They don't care.
They don't care.
They don't care. Yeah, it's not.
They
a
don't want
question
to
It's
hear
not
us.
a question of knowledge.
Yes.
It's a question of they don't care. But how do you make them care? This is the question, right? So
Annoy them.
yeah. Well, I mean, if each of you goes away and tells 5 other people to watch this movie, right, we'll be getting somewhere.
Yeah, I would just like to add, Dr. Mudar al-Bayruti, who was an Australian doctor stuck in Gaza back in May 2023, the border was closed on Friday, and I called the DFAT department to say, look, how can you help in this? And they said, can you please call on Monday? That's their response.
I just wanted to ask, for those of you there on the panel, obviously watching this documentary is going to bring up your own feelings and connections. And I think from us in the crowd, it's a human story, so it's obviously created emotions and connections from us. What do you want to tell us to take away from this? Because I know for a lot of us, it's about not being silent. But I would like to hear from you guys, every one of you. What do you want us as a crowd to take away from this, and what do you want us to do?
We'll come to you last, Dr. Siraj, because you're actually in the movie. But can we start with Robert and work our way this way?
Look, it's something I've seen for years. It's not something new. It's just the numbers have got greater and greater. And I just get more ropeable and angry that the world is allowing Israel to continue on while the Americans back them. And we just have to get louder and louder. We have to march, we do, but we have to do other things. We need to bang the cages. We need to do a whole lot of things because it has to stop. We're the only ones that are going to stop it. Israel's not going to stop. The US aren't going to stop. But it just makes me sad to see these kids. I mean, I've got a young kid, and to imagine any of this happening. I mean, we have kids here that have, ADHD, and that's a big problem. But these poor kids over there have got CPTSD. Everything's terrible for them. It's intergenerational. It has to stop yesterday. But it's a horrible future, and we need to realise that as well.
I think we need to act as individuals, but even more importantly, we have to organise. And I think within healthcare, that's particularly important. We have a unique platform. We have credibility, compassion, we have respect, and it's really important that we organise together and that everyone within their own professional organisations, unions, socially, that we all do what we can. And I think at this point the most important is to be persistent and for us to all to just keep doing what we're doing, because this is a dark time, and it's easy to fall into despair, but we must keep working and not give up.
The first point which I would like you to take away is to be very proud of who you are and to go out and be loud. Don't be scared. This is the first point. And the second point, which you probably need to do, I can't tell you what you can do. Every one of you knows his capability. So think about your position, your skills, your community, whatever it is, and do something within this circle. And if every one of us does that, I think we can together change the picture.
Before you say anything, Dr. Siraj, I wanted to say two things. One, with May, you don't have to worry about self-confidence. Two, Dr. Siraj, I noticed in the movie, this is the second time I watch it, and I noticed something, which is that your wife has already started pushing Hamza towards a career in medicine. Did you notice that?
No, I don't actually.
Yes. She said, "Do you want to be like Daddy?" That was the beginning. This is how it starts. Anyway, but yes, back to serious things. What do you want people to take away from this?
I don't think I have anything to add apart from don't be quiet, don't be intimidated, being informed what's happening, and trying to make a difference in your own way. And effort starts at home, and the community, the neighborhood, and so on and so forth. But I think we should all keep talking about it, and people like Erica have done an amazing job in putting this documentary together. I think supporting people like Erica and Jason and making sure the word spreads and people watch this is basically creating an awareness. And you can be the part of you can be the people who create the awareness and cause a ripple effect.
I just wanted to add that there's never been a better time to be pro-Palestine. I mean, it's come at a horrible, horrible amount of blood. But there's never been a better time. We also need to know that Israel knows that the world stops watching. We've looked for something else, and we need to make sure that we don't do that. The one thing that Palestinians have today is that the love for Palestine is far greater than any fear that we have of Israel. Things are changing, and it's going to happen soon and in our lifetime.
It's all we hear all the time about do what you can do, see what you can do, go organize, mobilize. All of us, we work in a bubble, unfortunately. After an hour maximum, I'll be forgetting about it. Maximum by tomorrow morning, I'll be doing my life like a normal. And that's not really helping me as a human, not helping me as what should I do. I need a straightforward advice from everybody in this room, how you could take this image, horrific, don't forget about it 1 hour. How can I and everybody in this room can really work in a more effective way to reach more humans outside, regardless in Australia or out of Australia, because the world is too small, in a very effective way. And this is the advice we would love to know, because all of us, we struggle, we go home, I don't know what to do.
Well, I think the straight answer is that it doesn't exist. There is no real way. My story was 15 years in Nasser actually being my best friend, a Palestinian, and I actually learned the truth from an Israeli Jew, Miko Peled. Now, who would have written that? There is no straight way. We are all, as we grow up, we have blinkers. Our blinkers either get tighter or they get looser. And that's not how, we don't know how we're going to wake up. We're different. We're all very, very different. That's all I can say. I don't have the pill for you.
Do you want to? No? You don't want to venture into that?
I'm asking the same question.
Well, yeah, I mean, we all answer. Do you want to?
All I can say is, we all have, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to make a difference. But deep down, we know how we're going to make a difference. And deep down, we also know what stops us from doing it. It could be workplace pressure, it could be being intimidated, it could be it's once you make an intention, I'm going to do, my skill set is this, I'm going to do this, and you act upon it. It's not going to happen overnight, but it'll have an effect.
Think about your ability, what you can do. So when you go back home in an hour time or tomorrow morning, you don't need to forget about this. You need to live it. You need to live with it. You need to breathe it. I need to do something. I need to change something. Just think about it all the time, because we all have the choice of shutting our brain off and doing something else. But you can continue to think about it, not in a way to drown in it, but in a way so that you can actually do something about it.
The person who asks this question, you're someone who's done a great deal. You've been very persistent, right? And I hear the frustration in your voice because you feel like you're not reaching the people you need to reach, okay? Now, I can tell you, it's very frustrating. I've gone to every forum you can imagine in this country. I've spoken in churches, I've spoken in synagogues, I've spoken in Jewish schools here, attempting to get across our message to people, attempting to get across the message, not of a political party, not of a political movement, not of a faction, but a simple message of what it is to be a Palestinian human being and what our cause is, right? And that it's not some giant conspiracy or some terrible lie, but that it's the story of ordinary human beings. And some days you make a little tiny bit of progress, and then some days you feel like you've made no progress. And I've got to tell you that after 23 years working in newspapers here, I sometimes wonder if I've made any difference at all. But I don't see how you can stop. I don't see how you can stop trying. And I know that you probably won't stop trying on my hand. So I hear your frustration, and Kaman, I also share it. But we have to keep trying. We have to keep trying to reach people outside our bubble, as you put it. We have to try and do what we can to make a difference.
I just have one thing to add.
Yeah, go on.
I have a mantra, and that is, effort is from us, and the results are from the God and Almighty. So all you're going to do is make an effort, and the results are not up to us.
So are there any other questions?
Probably a question for Dr. Siraj. You mentioned in the documentary that the hospitals were mostly staffed by medical students. I was wondering what had happened with the senior doctors or the doctors that would normally be running the hospitals?
Al-Aqsa Hospital was a maternity hospital before the actual war started. So they were equipped just to deal with pregnancies. And then when the war broke out, they were dealing with major traumas. So imagine a small hospital, you're dealing with everything. So they could not cope with the influx of patients. And it was a very small emergency department which was not equipped to deal with trauma, and they were dealing with trauma. They had shifted to dialysis. The dialysis which was happening at Shifa Hospital was now happening at Al-Aqsa Hospital with very limited facilities. So they did not have the staff to cope with the influx. And so all these medical students took it upon themselves to come and work in the emergency department. So there was one or two surgeons, there were a couple of, I think there was a neurosurgeon there were a couple of orthopedic surgeons there, but there was nobody so-called emergency department. It was run by CMOs, what we would call a CMO here. So that's where the you saw a lot of medical students in the documentary, and they were amazing. The knowledge base was fantastic, and they would manage what as an intern or a RMO or resident medical officer would manage here.
Yes. Now, before we start, are you who I think you are?
Yeah.
Are you the young lady who was on the front page of the Bayside Council newsletter?
Yeah.
Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Zaina.
Zaina was on the front page of the Bayside Council letter, not because she's Palestinian, but because she's a great volunteer. She's an all-round good egg, right? And then somebody noticed the pendant that she wears, which is a pendant in the shape of historical Palestine, right? And she's wearing it right now. The pendant, I have to tell you, in the photo on the newsletter of Bayside Council, is barely visible to the naked eye.
I know.
But somebody, God bless them, was looking for it. They found it. And on that basis, not only were you removed from the front page of the Bayside Council newsletter, the entire story inside about your volunteering was also expunged. Right? So this is where Zena comes from. Zena is getting an early education in what it's like to be Palestinian and to make an appearance in the media. Now, Zena, Habibti, what is your question?
My question is for Dr. Siraj, and I just wanted to ask you, what was it like, I guess, after witnessing and experiencing the atrocities in Gaza and helping in the hospitals and seeing everything? What was it like for you coming back to Australia and continuing your day-to-day life?
It was very, very difficult coming back. There's an immense guilt which you hold on to. Even now you feel guilty when you see the suffering which happens there. I don't think I spoke to my wife or children for a few days. I think I was not, but I was in the hospital actually when I came back. They took me from here to the hospital for an incident which had happened. So it was good, sort of rehab and getting your thoughts together. But then life has to go on. Even now you have you get those memories of the dead babies being brought in. Yes, you can never get over it. You just have to try and put that at the back of the mind somewhere, and your life goes on, I suppose. But it's difficult. It's difficult to put what you go through in words.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to wrap it up. But if anybody, is there last comments that Robert and Bianca you would like to make?
Oh, one other thing that I remembered, this is a piece of advice that someone gave to me when I first got involved. Somebody said to me, watch less and do more. And I think that's incredibly useful information or advice, because it's a real tendency that I think we all have to be paralysed in front of a screen. Thank you.